I'm Bruce Lorincz, and this show is called Bruce on the Loose. We talk to people throughout Medina County and the city of Wadsworth. Prior shows, last week we had the resource officer, Dan Shout, and also we had his counterpart at the high school, Ben Smith, and they really do a good job. And we also had shows in the past for parents that may need a little break in the Christmas holiday season with a lot of stories we read to kids, including Pete the Cat, and we did one on Greedy Zebra, which was a real good show. And of course, Casey at the Bat, one of my favorites. Tom Stugmyer is with us today. And he really does a lot for the city, and we'll get into that too. Tom, thank you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you being on here. Thank you.
Tom, what about your involvement in Wadsworth Community Radio? Can we start there?
We can, and it started sort of by chance. Back to the beginning with Joe Arpad and his wife Susan. As they traveled around the country, they were educators, professors in colleges throughout the country and universities. And there were some of them that had small, most of the universities or colleges have a small radio station. And when they came back to town, they thought how cool would it be for us to have one? So they made an FCC application for a low power FM station, like a nonprofit. And again, it sat there at the FCC for a long time, and for several years, actually, I believe. And then the FCC was going through cleaning their desk off, so to speak, and you get yours, And so we got the win pile. And so what that process is once you're when you apply for a license, what you start with at first is you get a construction permit, and then you have 18 months to get your FM signal on the air. So now it was almost like the dog that caught the car. We got it, now what do we do with it? And so Joe came to, I was downtown with Jack Ollum, design at the time, and Joe came down there and said, hey, we've got this opportunity to start this radio station, can you kind of help out? So Jack had an office, and we had a little bit of some of that expertise in there, and then we gathered some other people up that were in radio because none of us knew anything about it. And ended up forming a board and starting a radio station. And our 18 months would have been up in September 6 years ago. And in June of that year, we got our FM signal up. So that was kind of that, in a nutshell, that was the process that it took to get on air. Our studio is at 102 Main Street at the MC Real Estate, the old First Merit Bank building, or whatever bank you think of, depending upon how far you go back, on the southwest corner of the square. And the transmitter is on the city property in the Streets building. It's on the side of the water tower, just across from Sacred Heart Church there.
Well, it sounds like it's quite a process to go ahead and get licensed, and maybe that's why we don't see a lot of stations in Medina County.
Well, it is, and the low power FM, they're not high priority. They don't generate any revenue. Number one, for example, I had to renew our license after 5 years, and for a nonprofit, it is free to renew your license. So there's not a lot of dollars generated, and a lot of paperwork and things like that involved. And so that is a lot. And again, we're self-supporting. We're not part of the city. There are three of us, myself, Tina Heiberg, Joe Jastrzemski, that do all the on-air things. Judy Powers does some fundraising for us, but that's it. I mean, it is us. So again, this type of station, there's a lot of sweat equity that goes into it.
But Tom, it just seems to be just another way to promote Wadsworth and to let people know what's happening. And certainly you have a lot of people listening to it, and it really does help promote the city.
Well, it does. And again, part of the local hometown radio station. I mean, it's whether it's the other day, our lead news story was, and I forget what it was, but bus number 36 isn't going to be en route until the 1st of January. Number one, when we got on air, it was, we're going to offer something that you can't Google or get anywhere else. If the library lot's being striped and painted that day and you've got to park around the corner, that's what we're going to tell you. Because you can't, that's what you need to know here, and that's what we try to bring. And again, we also do the sports. We do the football. Joe and I do the football, play-by-play basketball as well. So it's all local.
But the deer getting into the substation, I saw that on Channel 5.
Yeah, yeah.
Some things locally even get beyond.
Even get beyond, yeah. So, yeah, that was that. You're exactly right there. That was oh dear, yeah.
Yeah, so for sure.
So,
what about the future? What would be the future of Wadsworth Community Radio? Do you think, Tom?
Well, what we're trying to do is to our signal right now, an FM signal is it can go forever unless it runs into something. I mean, and so the power, we only broadcast it at 15 watts. And so a powerful station goes further only because that's FM signal goes through buildings or goes through things. And right now our antenna being on side of that water tower is kind of shadowed to the north and the northwest. So what we're planning on doing, we have some sites picked out topographically that we've located around town, and that in the next year or so we're going to look and see if we can move that antenna. And like right now, if you head out toward, we've actually had people pick it up out toward Worcester. And of course, you head up toward Lowe's, you kind of lose the signal because of that shadow effect. So we're looking at getting that antenna up kind of by itself, and so that we have a better FM, our FM range that we're supposed to actually get, which is we're licensed for about an 8 or a 10 mile radius. Of course, an FM signal can go further, but power-wise, that's what the equipment in the broadcast is designed for.
In the fall, the Medina County Economic Development Corporation awarded you a very nice award. How did you feel about that?
Well, I'm gonna tell you what, I was extremely humbled by that for a couple of reasons. Number one, when you realize what the process was, there were, and again, Bethany Dentler, Kathy Breitenbooker from the Medina County Economic Development, put those awards on, and there were like 273 people that were nominated for that. Mm-hmm. And then they do interviews, one-on-one, face-to-face interviews. There were there was a committee that picked the top 10, and a different committee that picked the winners of each category out of that top 10. So I almost felt like I'm very fortunate. I was the pebble that fell through the sifting sand. But you know what that does, Bruce. An award like that is, again, it was a great honor to get. But I really looked at that as an award for the community, because 270 some people were able to be nominated for that. What does an award like that say? It sounds corny, but what does an award like that say for the community? That there's that many people that have a community that they can go out and volunteer and do things in. And and again, it was a really big honor to get that award. But and again, I really did appreciate it. But I mean, it was I really thought, man, what a great community that something like that, that it happens like that with those kind of numbers.
You segue into my next question. Thank you very much. But what does Wadsworth offer in regards to, and I think off the top of my head, I think city services, mm-hmm. I think of the school system, mm-hmm. I think of transportation, being close to mm-hmm. Interstates, mm-hmm. Workforce, an educated workforce. Mm-hmm. Do all those things really help in economic development?
Oh, absolutely. And again, having all that information, of course, Medina County Economic Development, they do a great job throughout the county promoting that. But again, within a city like that, what you have is, we have something here in a city of 24,000 people that you really can't go to get anywhere. Number one, we're lucky to live the infrastructure where we're at. I mean, the old tout was back in the Akron tire industry day, a lot of the trucking company, we're within this area is with a 24-hour drive of 2/3 of the population of the United States, infrastructure-wise. Right. And with all the highway system. Well, what does that do? I mean, and that's one of the things, like when economic development, we promote Wadsworth from businesses around, you have to, people will glance at a map. It's like, oh, you're 30 miles outside of Cleveland. Well, if you're 30 miles outside of Los Angeles, that could be a 2.5-hour commute.
Right.
I mean, I won't say how fast I was driving, but I've left at 12:15 for a 105 Indians game and got there just in time for first pitch. You know what I'm saying? I mean,
Sure.
so the location of Wadsworth is one thing as far as the infrastructure, but then once you get inside the city, we have an airport. That with all the industry around here, and a lot of people have small planes, but again, a lot of people will fly into Wadsworth to go to other locations, whether it's Cleveland or Worcester or something like that. And again, with us having all of our own utilities, we have a lot of control over that. Just a general case in point, not a big economic tool, but was it 3 or 4 different times the Golden Knights, United States Army Golden Knights, travel around the world doing their tandem jumps. They picked Wadsworth. One of the major snowbarger that was in charge of them at the time was from Worcester, so he knew the area. But they came to Wadsworth with one phone call to Matt Hiscock. Matt, we want to come to town because we have the airport, we have the police, fire, and EMS. We had, since the airport, we do the FAA notifications. Everything was done here. When they go to somewhere else, they have to make 8 or 10 different phone calls. That was all done here. Well, if they can do that, a business can do that as well.
Much more convenient.
It's much more convenient, right? And again, so we offer all those amenities. So those are just economic tools that we're lucky enough to have here in Wadsworth.
You know, I've observed over the last maybe decade, Tom, a factor that really does maybe help economic growth, and that's collaboration.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like before cities didn't want to talk to one another, the county and the cities were kind of on their own fiefdoms, but now it seems like people want to cooperate, and collaboration is really important, isn't it?
Well, it is, and again, I've mentioned Medina County Economic Development. Colleen Swedick, one of the county commissioners, she's on the Economic Vitality Committee here for Main Street Wadsworth. The other commissioners are down for a lot of different things and events. And again, they just have their toe in that, they're toe in the water on all those different things. And again, that collaboration again is so important because, for one thing, grant dollars, for example. A lot of the grant dollars that we get because of being in a main street and being the city that we are, those dollars filter down through the state and then through the county. Well, the county, with that collaboration, they know if they hand those dollars off to Wadsworth that we have facilities, people in place to spend those dollars correctly. And what a dollar does is, I don't know if they drew the little arrow in George Washington and counted him or whatever, but a dollar that comes in from outside in Medina County literally gets spent a minimum of 7 times before it leaves the county. So, here lately we've brought in $500,000 worth of grant. Well, 7 times 5 is $3.5 million worth of economic vitality after you renovated the buildings. The contractor may have used some of that money to buy other materials, which, locally. He may have used that for pay. If he used it for pay, those people went to a restaurant and bought something. So you see how it bounces around. And so that, you get a grant down in, you just didn't put a new HVAC system on the old Firestone building downtown. You generated a lot of economy, and those are the parts that those are the other tools in the collaboration that you have between all those all those communities. And again, those dollars don't stop at Medina County line. Sure. We benefited when you're going south on Medina County line, but going north you're in Summit County, you don't. It's a general effect, and between just from a Main Street organization, a standpoint, you've got Worcester, you've got Wadsworth, you've got Medina in there. Everybody benefits from that. So that collaboration it's essential. It's essential anymore.
Has COVID-19 blunted some of our initiatives to some degree?
It has. Of course, the downtown renovation plan was put on hold because of COVID, because of for a lot of reasons. The businesses are struggling, so you're not going to start tearing up the streets in front of there. And then once you get into it, not knowing, even if you could do some of the projects, are the grants that you were promised going to be pulled back for COVID money? So it did do that. However, Bruce, you know what was really interesting during that time frame, just before COVID, all the shutdowns, everything started, we had a $50,000 grant that we received from Heritage Ohio, state money that came through for renovations. And we thought, oh gosh, here's COVID, businesses are shut down. You know, how many rounds are we going to have to go to give that money away? It was a match. It would have been $100,000, you know, $50,000, and then the business put in 50. In the first month, that money was gone. So that's why I say yes and no. Businesses downtown, and again, this is part of that collaboration that I think that a lot of the business owners understand and know that it's not just even Wadsworth that's promoting them, it's out. If those businesses spent, you know, $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 of renovation when they were on a shutdown, to me that was a lot of faith in the local economy. And by local, I'm not talking stopping at, you know, at our boundaries, at that collaboration level. That was a lot of confidence in it. That money was gone the first month. So, you know, so it did stop some things, but other things, luckily enough, were able to go on. So, yeah.
Agent Patrick, on a prior show that I did with her, mentioned your name in regards to a higher orbit camp.
Oh.
And I guess she has, over the summer, she said she's got the whole year planned already for Main Street Wadsworth, which I know you know a lot about. And she mentioned your name as being involved in that camp. Can you explain what that is?
Well, I can, and of course, being the, you know, got my pocket protector here, being the NASA geek or whatever. Higher Orbits is a national organization, a 501c3, that takes STEM camps all over the country to from 8th through 12th grade. What it does is, and then in regions, you know, there's one in Cleveland, Wadsworth, Columbus, you know, Pittsburgh, and then there is the students design an experiment, a space experiment. And then out of that region, one of those experiments fly on the International Space Station. So a high school kid can come to these camps and, you know, they have it, you know, your project's good enough, it flies on the International Space Station. So it promotes, and it's not just about, you know, it's the science, technology, engineering, mathematics, but there's a lot of the teamwork and again, that collaboration. You know, you're brought into a room, and again, it's not just kids from when we do a Wadsworth camp, we had Youngstown kids. I mean, it's an area thing. And so all of a sudden, you're at a table with people that you didn't know. Like, gosh, does that happen in industry? How do we work together on getting the train track from here to here kind of a thing with all these people? So the kids learn that as well. And again, they come up with the experiments. So anyway, what the mural project that we have down in the Strand alley there between Doc Boyer's building and the Strand is a space mural. It's a two-sided mural. If no one's seen it, you know, stop down, take a look at it. Look at it at night. There a lot more detail comes out at night. But anyway, that Mike Foreman is on there. And what the plan is next year is to bring one of the STEM camps here to Wadsworth again. We've had a couple of them here in the past, and to do a little bit of a ribbon cutting there. And let's just say that people involved with Higher Orbits, they know people, and we're going to get a photograph of that with some of the donors and participants flown in outer space. So, and I know it could be done because I'm a proud owner of a plaque hanging on my wall in the radio station that I had a little photograph of me that they had flown in space for some of the service that I did for a Higher Orbit. So, but yeah, again, it's a STEM camp that goes all over the country like that. And again, so hopefully we're going to be able to get, depending upon Mike's, of course, Mike Foreman, being from Wadsworth, he's a mayor in Friendswood, Texas. And so depending upon Mike's schedule, we'll work the camp around him. But yeah, we plan on doing that and have a little celebration next year. Yeah.
I think women certainly could step up to the plate, and we certainly have more opportunities. And sometimes they have some initiatives and really some ideas that sometimes the men don't.
Well, they do. And again, Higher Orbits has always been like that, even before it was I don't want to say cliche to do, but I mean it's always been. I mean, you know, and again the diversity that that comes in that, whether it's from women or other cultures or anything. I mean, that's what the space program was built on. I mean, Werner von Braun, he came from, you know, Germany. I mean, I'm saying that was a collaboration of a lot of different people and cultures and everything. And Michelle Lucas, again, she was an astronaut trainer, did some capsule communicating things down there in mission control and everything else. And so she knew the importance of that. So when she transitioned out of NASA, she goes, I have to promote this. This is what I'm going to do the rest of my life. So.
Main Street Wadsworth really does a lot. We talked about the businesses downtown. Adrian also told me during that show that sometimes on a first Friday, people will have the businesses, the customers come in and they'll pay their rent for a whole month on that one Friday.
Right, you're right. And again, that type of, you know, a downtown is an important economic tool for a city. What you end up with is, of course, not terribly many years ago. I mean, when you and I were kids, you know, you had to come downtown to sustain life. You came down to buy groceries, you bought your clothes, your pharmacy was downtown. I mean, you really couldn't live from Monday to Sunday without coming downtown to buy something, and that's not the case anymore. And so, you know, the economics of a downtown have to be rethought. You know, it's the old adage of, well, gosh, why do you go door to door selling laundry soap? It's like, well, that's because people buy laundry soap. So it's you know, kind of corny, but in that nutshell, you redevelop a downtown to what would work, what would bring people downtown, what will they buy, what can't they buy anywhere else but downtown. And so, you know, again, with Wadsworth Area Chamber of Commerce, you know, input from them, the city economic development, and again, Main Street, you know, we're of course, we're one of the 23 main streets in Ohio, but we're also a national recognized main street as well. So having all of that input from you know, what, you know, again, gosh, well, can something from, you know, California work here? Well, yeah, maybe not everything, but there are some things that can work here. So again, you get all that input or whatever, and that, you know, having an economic, a vital downtown, you know, it does. It's that collaboration, and it does. It goes out. So.
Congratulations, you got reelected as at-large councilman in the
thank
fall. You. And what is council up to maybe for 2022? What's on their agenda?
Well, you know, a lot of the, of course, you know, thanks to everyone for, you know, the streets improvement levy, not a renewal, but basically a renewal passed. And again, that's one of those things that, again, it goes back 10 years ago when the first one, the 10 to 1% sales tax to take care of the streets. And again, something like that is just, I mean, it's just been vital to the city. I mean, we're able to do, other than, you know, you think, you know, you go out and you see, well, the streets got paved, that's very nice, and of course that's great. But in the outskirts of all that, it's really reduced potholes. They're not, I mean, you get those replaced, you get those, you don't end up with as many of those. And the other thing, Bruce, that it does too is being able to, having all of our own utilities, other than, you know, gas and some communication lines that are, of course, you know, exterior. When we plan out those street improvement programs, all the infrastructure we do ahead of time. So you're not paving a street and now we should have replaced that, you know, we're going to replace the water line. Well, that's all planned out ahead of time. So the dollars that saves is even makes the, you know, the paving more economically makes sense. And so, you know, a lot of those programs continue on. Of course, we're looking for in the future for the, you know, there was the downtown revitalization program that again got put on hold, and we're looking at what do we do with that. All the infrastructure down underneath is a disaster. I mean, it's, you know, some things down there are 100 years old, and that all needs replaced. So when you tear it up, what are you going to put back on top? That's where it kind of all started. And so, what do you do with the businesses now? You know, if we're coming out of COVID, and, you know, when do you start doing all that? And again, there's two ways of looking at that. It's like, you know, you don't want to do something to the businesses right now as they're just coming out and hinder business. And then there's a balancing point. Well, let's say in 4 or 5 years, let's say the economy's booming. Let's say everything is great and wonderful and money's growing on the trees. Well, if you tear it up then, it's like, well, this is our most profitable time and you're doing it. So there's a real balance point that we need to look at as city council to take care of the businesses down there like that. And then we'll be looking at all that. When do you do it? What do you do to replace all that? So yeah, a lot of that type of thing, or on the again with the day-to-day running of the city. Paying the light bill, paying the insurance, all of those housekeeping things that we do as city council as well.
Do you have a few comments about Santee Landing?
Oh, I do. And again, that will be opening up here. They're going to be doing a ribbon cutting out there as well. And again, that housing out there, of course, is affordable housing, not low-income housing, affordable housing. And again, just another tool here in the city for to make Wadsworth a livable city, as well as on all ends of the spectrum. That's the other thing that we'll look at on city council. Or, you do and don't have control. It's free economy, that kind of thing. You can put certain things in wherever you want. Those kind of things. But we look at a lot of things when developments and things come in. It's like there's that part of the population, of course, that serves. What do you do with are people, before they go into a assisted living or independent living even, is there they're empty nesters now? Are there need for some little cluster homes or things like that that are involved? So yeah, you look at all those things. Yeah, but again, congratulations. I know their ribbon cutting's coming up here pretty soon. So yeah.
Yeah, it's really exciting. And Tom, I want to thank you for all you do for the city of Wadsworth. As you are certainly everywhere and anywhere, and thank you very much for your involvement. And thank you for viewing Bruce on the Loose, and we will look forward to having you on with very new shows for 2022. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thanks again, Bruce.
You are watching WCTV, Wadsworth Community Television.